Hi class, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to convert between fractions, decimals, and percent. So let's start with our first example, which is the fraction 9 over 10. So if you recall from my earlier videos, 9 over 10, since it's over 10, the smallest value is going to be in the tenths place. And I'm going to have place values like this. I'm simply going to put the 9 in my smallest place value and fill the rest with place value holders. Hence my final answer is 0.9 as a decimal. All right, great. Now, moving on to percentages. Since I have a decimal, right? If I take my decimal and I times it by 100, I'm simply going to get my percent, and then I just add a percent symbol to it. Now, in this case, since I have 0.9, anytime you multiply a decimal by 100, you move the decimal place 2 places to the right. So my decimal is now going to be here, or place value holder here. So hence 0, I'll just make more room. 0.9 was originally here. I moved it 1, 2, I moved it over here. But there are place value holders here and here, right? And I'm going to have to add zeros there to take their place. So I'm going to add a 0 here and here. And the place value holder is now here. This decimal disappears. Hence, my answer should be 90.0, or you can just say 90. Now, the next step, once you multiply 0.9 by 100, you simply just write a percent sign next to the answer. So 0.9 as a decimal is just 90%. Now, let's convert backwards. Since I have 18% here, to change a percent to a decimal, I simply write my percent without the decimal, and I simply divide by 100. Now, when you divide by 100, what ends up happening is I have the decimal right here. When you divide by 100, you move the decimal 2 places back to the left. Hence, I now have the decimal place here. And what I have here is a place value holder, which is a 0. Hence, my answer here should be 0.18 as a decimal. Now, 0.18, if you recall how to convert a decimal to a fraction, since my smallest place value to the right is the hundreds, my fraction should be over 100. And now all I have to do is write what I see on the top, write everything I have here, the 0.18, without the decimal. So I'm just going to write 0.18. So my answer should be 0.18 over 100, but since 0.18 is the same as just 1/8, my final answer should just be 1/8 over 100. And this is the answer unreduced. Okay, now let's use that logic to solve for the rest. That's 0.17, hence that's going to be 17 over 100. And as a percent, that should be 17%. This is 0.8, hence my answer should be, well, we can actually simplify this and simply just say it's going to be 0.8. So this would be just 0.8. And you can actually just write it as, since the smallest place value is 8 here, you can just write it as 8 over 10. Or if you really want to, you can actually write it as 80 over 100. But they both are equivalent, so it is up to you. I would just stick with the 8 over 10 in this case. Here I'm going to have 80%. 1/4, so I need a base of 100 or 10 to convert this to a decimal. So I'm just going to times the bottom by 25. And what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I'm simply going to have 100 on the bottom here, 25 on the top. Hence, this is very obvious that it's going to be 0.25. And then as a percent, if I times this decimal by 100 and add a percent symbol, I'm just going to get 25% because I'm moving the decimal 2 places to the right and simply adding the percent symbol. Now, 15%, if I divide it by 100, I'm simply going to move the decimal 2 places to the left and remove the percent symbol, hence 1, 2. I'm going to get 0.15. 0.15 as a fraction is simply going to be over 100 because my smallest place value is in the hundreds here, 5, and I'm simply just going to write 1/5 or 0.15, but 1/5 because it's better than writing 0.15 over 100. 1/5 over 100 is better, and it's more accurate. Okay, now I got 0.85. This is simply going to be 85 over 100 because my smallest place value is in the hundreds place here. This is going to be 85% because I multiply this by 100 and add the percent sign. This one here, I'm simply going to multiply 24 by 4 to get it to be a base of 100. Now, what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top, so I have to also multiply the 11 by 4. So I got 44 over 100, hence this is going to be 0.44. And as a percent, it's going to be 44%. Okay, great. So now, let's work on some more difficult problems. So here's some more problems for fractions, decimals, percent, and converting them, but these ones are more difficult. So let's give it a shot here. 55% as a decimal is simply going to be 0.55. As a fraction, I got 55 over 100. 0.84 is going to be 84 over 100 because my smallest place value is in the hundreds place. As a percent, just 84% because I'm just moving the decimal 2 places to the right and adding a percent symbol. 91% is just going to be 0.91 because I'm just moving the decimal 2 places to the left and removing the percent symbol. And 0.91, smallest place value is in the hundreds, hence it's going to be over 100. And I'm simply just going to write 91 on the top. Now, 27 over 75, for this one, either you can solve it with long division, or you can try to change the denominator to 10, 100, or 1,000, or maybe even 10,000. In this case, 75, it's very difficult to change that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this first. So I'm going to divide both top and bottom by 3, because I noticed that if I divide both top and bottom by 3, I'm simply going to get 25 on the bottom, and then I'm simply going to get 9 on the top. So I got 9 over 25. Now, recall, for 9 over 25, if I simply multiply 25 by 4, I'm going to get 100 on the bottom. And now if I multiply, since I multiplied the bottom by 4, I have to multiply the top by 4. So 9 times 4 is 36. Hence, this is going to be 36 over 100. And 36 over 100 as a decimal is simply going to be 0.36. Now, 0.36 as a percent is going to be 36%. Now, I have 27 over 20. I'm simply going to multiply both top and bottom by 5, because although I can divide 20 by 2 to get 10, if I try to do the same to 27, I would get a decimal answer, and I don't want to have a decimal in my fraction. So hence, I'm going to multiply it by 5 instead. 20 times 5 is 100. Since what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 27 times 5 is going to be 135. So this is going to be 135 over 100. Hence, this is going to be 1.35. And 1.35 as a percent is 135%, because I'm just moving the decimal 2 places to the right and adding a percent symbol. Okay, here. This 0 is in the tenths place. This 0 is in the hundreds place. This 9 is in the thousands place. Hence, my answer should be over 1,000. And what I do now is ignore the decimal and just write all my digits on the top. So I'm going to write 0009. But the thing is, 0009 is actually the same as just 9 over 1,000. Okay, great. Now to change this to a percent, I move the decimal 2 places to the right and add a percent symbol. So this will just be 0.9%. Okay, great. Now I got 2.6%. So to change this to a decimal, I move the decimal here 2 places to the left-hand side instead. That's place value holder, that's place value holder. Hence, this is going to be 0.026. That's simply all there is to it. If you want to check your work, can you change a decimal back to a percent and equal 2.6? Yep. Move it 2 places to the right, add a percent symbol. So now that I have that, the 6 is in the thousands place. Hence, it's going to be over 1,000. And I'm simply going to write 26. Great. Now I got 0.132. Since 2 is in the thousands place, this is going to be over 1,000. And I'm simply going to write 132. I could write 0.132, but at this point, I'm just going to simplify and write 132 over 1,000. Then if I change this to a percent, I simply move the decimal 2 places to the right and add a percent symbol. So I'm going to get 13.2%. And that's it for my final fractions, decimals, percent question. I hope this was a good example to help you understand fractions, decimals, and percent. But if you want a more in-depth view, please check out my other videos on how to convert between these in more details without using a calculator.